The story kicks off with this boy spying on a bunch of goblins, chilling around a campfire. He steps on a twig, and the snap gives him away. The goblins are on him, chasing hard. But while he's running, he cracks a smile. This is all part of the plan. Next thing, the goblins drop into a pitfall trap he set up earlier. The boy steps out, showing his face, thinking that was close. Good thing I had that trap ready. Right now, he's surviving solo in this world. Then his mind flashes back to the day he first got thrown into this other world. Haruka's sitting by himself at his desk, cause he's a straight up loner. He knows it, and honestly, he's cool with it. If he wasn't chilling solo, he'd have to hang out with his classmates, and he can't stand those folks. The class is full of different cliques. You got the delinquents, the popular girls, the gym bros, and then the randoms nobody pays attention to. He doesn't fit in with any of them, and that's fine by him. More time to dive into his books, no need for friends. But his quiet time gets interrupted when a bright light pops up underneath him. Looks like some kind of summoning circle is showing up under the student. For a second, Haruka gets hyped. He knows this means an Isekai adventure is coming. Then it hits him. He's been getting way too much screen time for a loner. And if there's one thing he knows about Isekai, it's that things are about to go sideways for him. He's not gonna be some casualty before GTA 6 drops though. While the portal's still loading, he makes a break for the door, trying to dip out. But the door's locked tight with magic, and no matter how hard he pushes, there's no getting out. The portal's almost fully loaded now, and his classmates start fading away, getting pulled into it. Haruka, not down for this ride, makes a last-ditch move and crawls up into the ceiling vents, hoping to hide until it blows over. He sneaks his way into the roof of the classroom, thinking he's in the clear. But right when he's feeling safe, the summoning circle tracks him down through the roof and pulls him in anyway. Sucks he couldn't stay on Earth, but he figures some fat king or cute princess is gonna pop up, asking for help or something. But that's not what happens. Instead, Haruka sees this bald old guy freaking out, waving his arms around like crazy when he spots him. Turns out, the old man's some kind of supreme being, the one who was behind the whole summoning. He's already sent the rest of Haruka's classmates to the other world. But since Haruka pulled that ceiling stunt, his summoning got delayed. Now the old dude's in a rush to send Haruka off before he gets in trouble for messing things up. The supreme being tells Haruka he's gonna get some abilities to help him in the other world. But there's a catch: he showed up late, and all the good abilities have already been picked. What's left? A bunch of throwaway skills nobody wanted. We're talking Minecraft villager abilities, gambling dice, contact lenses, and a stick, among others. To top it off, he can only pick a few. Haruka loses it, going off on the old man for dragging him into this mess and leaving him with garbage abilities. The old man knows he messed up, but he ain't about to let some high school kid scream at him like that. So he tells Haruka, "Fine, you can have all the leftover skills, but I don't want to see your face around here again." Then, without warning, he teleports Haruka straight into the other world. Now, having more skills than most sounds nice, but it's not much help when you're dumped in the middle of the woods with no gear. Haruka's never survived in the wild before, and he's got nothing to work with. Then he spots a pouch on the ground. Turns out it's tied to the Minecraft villager skill, and it lets him store unlimited items in his inventory. Luckily, there's some starter gear inside, so at least he's not totally screwed. Once he's got his stuff together, he decides to check his stats. But thanks to the gambling dice, he's gotta roll a number to get his stat points. He rolls the dice, lands on an M, and has no clue what it means. Whatever, he throws all his M points into his luck stat, figuring it can't hurt. To his surprise, when he checks his stat window, his luck stat is maxed out. Now he's kinda wishing he used it on something else. As he keeps scrolling through his stats, he realizes, besides the trash skills, he also picked up 2 unique abilities. Because he was such a loner back on Earth, he won't be able to form a party here, even if he tries. But the upside is that his second skill lets him force monsters to serve him, since he won't be making friends with humans. Haruka's a little bummed out that he won't be building a harem anytime soon, but it is what it is. Right now, he's more worried about the fact that none of his classmates are around. It's weird, especially since this is supposed to be the starting point for everyone. But then again, he never gave a damn about them before, so why would he start now? Right now, Haruka's gotta focus on stacking up supplies if he wants to survive and live decent out here in the woods. Problem is, that's easier said than done, cause with all these trees in the way, he can barely see a thing. At this rate, it's only a matter of time before he stumbles into a monster, and if that happens, he's done for. Then it hits him he's got that contact lens skill, so he pops them in, and suddenly he's seeing all kinds of info about the area around him. Turns out the lenses come with an appraisal skill built in. Now he's able to move through the forest without getting lost, and even spots some mushrooms that won't kill him if he eats them. He picks a few, then heads to a nearby river, using his bag to scoop up some water to drink. Once he's finished, something else grabs his attention. He wanders deeper into the woods and finds a small cave. It looks too interesting to pass up. Haruka says a quick prayer, just in case there's a monster lurking inside ready to jump him. After that, he heads in to explore. Luckily for him, the cave is monster-free, and it's big enough to be useful, so he decides this'll be his new base. He pulls a tent and a magic lantern out of his bag and sets up camp. Then he starts a small fire using his temperature control magic to stay warm for the night. Funny thing is, using that magic once lets him unlock a new fire skill, and being on edge about monsters helps him pick up a bunch of detection skills too. But Haruka's only got a stick for an attack skill, so he's still gotta figure out how he's gonna protect himself. The next morning, he wakes up with a start, nervous about what might have gone down overnight. When he steps out of the tent, he's relieved no monsters attacked him while he was asleep. Turns out those useless skill items he had were clutch for keeping him safe from the creatures. Even though he's safe from danger, that don't mean he's safe from her hunger. So, he whips out a frying pan and starts cooking up some of those mushrooms he picked yesterday. And if you're wondering where he got the pan from, it was just chillin' in his villager bag, along with a full set of kitchen knives and some beef jerky. So far, that bag's been the real MVP in Haruka's arsenal, and he's wondering what kind of villager hooked it up before he got it. Anyway, now that he's eaten, he needs to figure out what the hell he's gonna do next. So he steps outside and takes a little walk to clear his head. That cave might work as a base for now, but Haruka still gotta worry about finding a steady food supply and setting up some protection in case any monsters decide to roll up on him. Luckily, with his contact lenses, it shouldn't be too hard to gather enough food to last a while. He finds more mushrooms and some herbs almost immediately, but the monster problem's still hanging over his head. Right then, Haruka's detection skill kicks in. He notices something nearby, so he goes to check it out. When he gets closer, he's freaked out cause the noise is coming from goblins. And not just one, there's two of them, and they've both got higher strength stats than him. He wonders if he can even take them on with where he's at right now, and starts thinking about bailing. But since he's living in this forest, he knows he's gonna have to throw down with these goblins eventually, so he figures he might as well handle it now while he's got the upper hand. That said, he's not sure his stick alone is gonna cut it, so he tries using a little magic to wrap around the stick, just to see if it does anything. Turns out, it works better than he expected. So, he jumps out the bushes and cracks one of the goblins right in the head. The goblin's dazed and confused, but Haruka ain't done, yet he keeps beating it down until it finally drops. One down. Now he's got to deal with the other one. As it charges at him, Haruka dodges out of the way just in time. Now that he's feeling it, he realizes the goblin's attacks are pretty predictable. He starts dodging easily and smacks it around a few times before hitting it with a magic blast. After winning his first fight against goblins, Haruka decides that's enough action for the day and heads back to the cave to get some rest. So when he gets back, he cooks up some mushrooms for dinner and takes a look at the club he found on the goblin's body. It has high damage potential, but it's heavy and has a short range, so Haruka decides to stick with his trusty stick for now. After that, he checks his stats, and to his surprise, he realizes he leveled up from the fight he had earlier. Not only that, but all his existing stats doubled too. The next morning, Haruka wakes up, has breakfast like usual, but he's starting to get tired of eating nothing but mushrooms all the time. He really wishes he could eat some meat, but he knows he has to learn how to hunt first, and before that, he needs to enhance himself. The first thing he wants to try is the magic fusion skill he acquired. To explain it briefly, it basically covers his entire body with magic to boost both his physical and magical defenses. It also greatly increases his strength, so he should be able to fight much more effectively. Plus, his appraisal skill was upgraded to level 2, so he uses it to check if anything has changed. But the only difference is that there's a question mark next to all the descriptions. Haruka clearly hasn't played video games before, because he spends a whole minute trying to figure out what a question mark icon could mean, and eventually, he just gives up. Instead, he heads outside for some magic training. As he's leaving, he notices something on the ground. He picks it up, thinking it might be meat, but it turns out to be another mushroom. It may be a bit silly, but Haruka was really hoping meat would just grow on trees in this world, and he quickly realizes he's not going to find any meat on the forest floor, so he decides to move forward with his magic training. He activates his mana infusion and takes a step forward, but with the physical boost, he ends up flying several meters ahead. His body feels much lighter than before, and with very little effort, he can easily dart around the forest, almost as if he's teleporting. On top of that, his dexterity is greatly enhanced, allowing him to move and strike with precision. The first thing Haruka does with his new strength is challenge 2 random goblins he sees nearby. Unlike yesterday, when he struggled to take down one, he knocks one out with a single hit. Feeling really confident about this power, he thinks he can handle even more goblins. But when he spots a group of 3 goblins together, he starts to have second thoughts. He slowly backs away, wanting to avoid getting jumped by the whole crew. After that, he decides he's put in enough work for the day, so he heads back to his cave to practice his magic. He establishes a routine where he spends his days fighting and his nights experimenting with magic. To his surprise, he discovers he can even make coffee tables with his magic. By sticking to this routine, he eventually gets to the point where he can one-shot a goblin and craft a proper table. Feeling good about his progress, he uses his magic to create a gate for his cave, which means he can finally go hunting at night. He decides to go after a rabbit because he hasn't had meat in so long, but when he catches up to it and is about to start cooking, he notices something else moving nearby. At first, he thinks it's just another goblin, but then he realizes it's even worse. His classmates from school. He really doesn't want to deal with them, so he plans to sneak away in the opposite direction. As he starts moving, he sees the gym bros, the popular girls, and even the nerds. The nerds aren't that bad. He hung out with them sometimes in school, but he still doesn't want to talk to anyone. Finally, he spots the student council group, which includes the class representative. Even though he doesn't like socializing with his classmates, he admits that the class rep has always been nice to him. He briefly considers saying hello as a way to return her kindness, but he really doesn't want to mess up the solitude he's found. No one knows he's here, and he finally has the chance to be completely alone, just as he's always wanted. There's no small talk, no taxes, and no one bothering him. So after thinking it over, he decides to ignore his classmates and continue living alone, determined to conquer this world on his own.